Good afternoon, folks. Let's try take two on B. Okay, I'll be right with you. Give me 1 second. Now, we are discussing continuing care communities, okay, which are all inclusive, of course. Continuing care retirement communities, CCRCs, occupy a unique and fragile place in American long term care landscape. They are not simply housing, not simply health care, and not simply insurance. They are all three at once, a hybrid institution built on a promise. Enter here and you will be cared for across the full arc of aging, no matter how your needs change. That promise is profound. It is also expensive, accurately complex, and financially delicate. And it rests on three interlocking pillars: occupancy, cash reserves, and debts. These pillars are not accounting abstractions, they are the quiet masonry beneath every resident's sense of safety. When they are strong, a CCRC can deliver decades of stability, predictability, and care. When they weaken, the promise begins to crack. When they fail, the consequences fall hardest on the people least able to absorb them. Older adults who believed they had secured a stable future. This essay traces how these three forces shape the destiny of CCRCs, why they matter, and what their erosion looks like from the inside. Occupancy is the most visible and intuitive indicator of a CCRC's health. It is the pulse, the rhythmic inflow of monthly fees that keep the organism alive. Independent living units, in particular, are the financial engine. When they are full, revenue flows. Predictability. When they are empty, even slightly, the entire system feels the strain. High occupancy signals trust. It means older adults see the community as these are desirable, safe, well run. It means word of mouth is strong, marketing is effective, and the campus feels alive. It also means the community can meet its obligations, staffing levels remain stable, capital improvements continue, and care levels are adequately funded. But occupancy is fragile. A dip of just 5 or 10 percentage points can destabilize operations. Empty apartments represent loss of revenue that cannot be easily recouped. The fixed costs, debt service, staffing, utilities, maintenance do not shrink. When residents leave, they simply become heavier. Declining occupancy often precedes deeper trouble. It may reflect reputational concerns. Deferred maintenance, raising fees, or leadership turnover. It may also reflect broader demographic or market shifts. But whatever the cause, the effect is the same. The pulse weakens, and the rest of the system must compensate. Cash reserves, the quiet guardian. If occupancy is the pulse, cash reserves are the immune system, the protective buffer that allows a CCRC to withstand shocks. Reserves are what differentiates a resilient community from a brittle one. They are also the most misunderstood. Indicator by consumers who often assume that a beautiful campus or a long history implies financial strength. Strong reserves allow a CCRC to absorb unexpected costs. A recession that deepens depresses entrance fees, inflows. A spike in labor costs, a major capital repair, a temporary dip in occupancy, a pandemic that disrupts operations. Reserves also allow a CCRC to honor its long-term care commitments. Type A contracts, in particular, require decades of architectural stability. Residents pay upfront for the assurance that their future care will not depend on market voluntary or operational surprises. Without robust reserves, that assurance becomes aspirational rather than real. Weak reserves, by contrast, force a community to into short-term thinking. Leadership begins to make defensive decisions, delaying renovations, freezing hiring, reducing programming, or increasing fees. These decisions, in turn, can erode occupancy further, creating a feedback loop of decline. The most dangerous scenario when reserves are used to cover routine operations. This is the financial equivalent of burning furniture to heat the house. A sign that the underlying business model is failing. Debt, the long shadow. Debt is the least visible and most dangerous of all of the three pillars. Many CCRCs borrow heavily to build or expand their campuses. Debt itself is not inherently problematic. In fact, it is often necessary, but the relationship between debt and cash flow determines whether a community is stable or precarious. Healthy debt is manageable, predictable, and aligned with occupancy and reserves. It allows a community to invest in its future, new buildings, upgrades, care units, modern amenities. It can even enhance competitiveness. Unhealthy debt, however, becomes a long shadow over daily operations. When debt service consumes too much of the operating budget, every other priority suffers. Staffing becomes leaner, maintenance becomes reactive rather than proactive, capital projects are deferred, fees raised faster than inflation, and financing becomes a looming threat. Residents rarely see debt directly. They do not read beyond convents or debt service coverage ratios, but they feel debt's effects in the slow erosion of quality, the turnover of staff, the aging of facilities, and the subtle shift from abundance to scarcity. Debt problems often emerge quietly and then all at once. A refinancing deadline approaches, interest rates raise, occupancy dips, reserves thin. Suddenly, a community that looked stable becomes vulnerable. The independence, a three-part system. The true story of CCRC financial health is not about any single indicator. It is about how occupancy, reserves, and debt interact. A community with high occupancy but weak reserves is brittle. A community with strong reserves but heavy debt is constrained. A community with low debt but declining occupancy is exposed. The heaviest CCRC the heaviest CCRCs maintain balance across all three. They keep units full, build reserves steadily, and manage debts prudently. They understand that their promise to residents is not just clinical or cultural. It is financial, and they treat the promise with the seriousness it deserves. The most dangerous profile is a community with slipping occupancy, thin reserves, heavy debt. This is the CCRC that looks fine on the surface. Manicured lawns, cheerful marketing friendly staff, but is quietly drifting toward distress. Residents may not see the warning signs until they manifest in sudden fees increases, service reductions, or leadership turnover. The human consequences. Behind every ratio is a human story, a resident who moved in believing they had secured stability, a family who trusted the community to care for their parents, a staff member who wants to provide excellent care but lacks the resources, a leadership team trying to balance mission with math. When occupancy falls, reserves thin, and debt rises, the consequences ripple through daily life. The dining room feels understaffed. The maintenance backlogging grows. The care units feel stretched. The sense of security, the very thing residents pay for, begins to erode. Financial distress in a CCRC is not just a business problem. It is a breach of trust. The path forward. Evaluating CCRCs through the lens of occupancy, reserves, and debt is not merely a technical exercise. It's a moral. One, policymakers, regulators, and consumers need clearer, more transparent financial reporting. Communities need stronger governance and more rigorous actuality oversight, and residents deserve to understand the financial foundation beneath the promise they rely on. The future of CCRCs depends on strengthening these three pillars, not just individually, but collectively. A CCRC that maintains high occupancy, robust reserves, and manageable debt can deliver on its promise for decades. A CCRC that neglects any one of them risks becoming another cautionary tale. The promise of lifelong care is too important to leave to chance. Okay, folks, I'll be back on shortly with C. Give me a bit for that, please, and I'll be back on for you.